Hello, and welcome to another episode of Coach John Runs His Cake Hole, brought to you by the Sports Reclamation Project. As always, I'm your friendly neighborhood youth coach, Coach John, and thank you for stopping by. I do apologize for my absence the last couple weeks. I had a little bit of a health scare, and I'll get into it right now and clear the air on it. As you can tell, I'm all about transparency. As many of you know, I blew my knee out, tore my MCL and my meniscus playing basketball around Christmas time, and due to the VA's crackpot squad of savvy, motivated individuals, I couldn't get in for their treatment until October 3rd. It's like that sometimes. I'm not going to get into the details of that because so many people have it worse than me. But during my MRI, they checked everything. Well, a couple hours after I got home, they found a blood clot in my knee, the same knee I hurt. I got nothing but a call that said, get to the nearest emergency room and see what they can do. Fortunately, it was caught. I don't know how long it had been there. It had not spread too far, and they were able to treat it. However, the mental strain of that understandably took me out of the game for a little bit, and I apologize for my absence, but I had to sit down and decompress a little bit. That, and with the schedule of being busy again, coaching middle school sports, there's only enough hours in the day, so I had to step back. But I am back. My middle school team I am a part of and proud to be a part of is sitting at 4-1 right now. Getting better. It's fun to see the development, but it's really hard to put everything you want into a middle school season as for teaching and developing. And I'm remembering that as I get back into the X's and O's side of basketball. And it's really important for coaches to be consistent every practice, for players to be consistent every practice, and to really just plug away every time you get an opportunity on the court. And speaking of plugs, let's get through these shameless plugs before we get started. Friends, fans, if you have not liked and or followed us on social media, you can do it at the Sports Reclamation Project on Facebook. You can do it at _Sports Reclamation Project on Instagram, or you can go to our website, www.sportsreclamationproject.com. These are 3 ways to get connected, get plugged into what we're doing, and continue to help the movement as we work on improving youth sports culture, reclaiming youth sports culture that I talked about before. I would also need to tell you, holiday season's coming up. Get your merchandise on the sportsreclamationproject.com website. You can shop hats, hoodies, all types of apparel you can get for you and or the person in your life that loves sports. I don't see a dime from that money. It all goes back into our youth scholarship fund dedicated to meeting the needs for underprivileged athletes in the community. I would also be amiss if I did not mention TrueVictory.com. True Victory is a sportswear and streetwear brand founded by military and first responders. It is a brand dedicated to everyday wear for everyday people. You can buy their stuff at www.truevictory.com. When you go there, put in the code RECLAMATION for 15% off your purchase. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's topic. It's a topic I want to get into. I've experienced it. I think more people have experienced it than they realize when they look at it, and that is burnout. What to do when you're burned out coaching. It happens. We all get burned out. How do you handle it is the important question. I have in my past times previously stepped away from coaching for an indefinite hiatus. I recharge and refresh, reclaim my passion for coaching, and sometimes learn new tactics to make it a little less crazy. I will always admit, though, I allow myself to become burned out. I'm one of those people who do too much. I sometimes forget there is, in fact, too much of something you love, and I burn myself out. The most recent period of burnout came over a 3-season stretch when, due to a coaching shortage, I found myself over those 3 seasons being in charge of 14 different teams, as well as handling head referee duties in the same league. I don't want to get into that league because when I spoke about them, I was reprimanded when I was employed by them, so we'll leave it there. However, I don't blame anybody but myself for burning out. I could have said no. I was not forced, coerced, or anyway made to carry such a workload. It was of my own doing. So the first thing I want to talk about when dealing with burnout is it's okay to say no. And no is a complete sentence. I loved coaching and developing the many players I was fortunate enough to work with. But I didn't say no enough. I ignored warning signs that I was burning myself out. And I want to share some of the warning signs in hopes of preventing someone else from dealing with coaching burnout. I understand partially because I absolutely love coaching, and the other partially is because I am a glutton for punishment. I came back after burning out. A lot of us don't. So I'd like to think if I can share, in a nutshell, the things I realized once I sat back and reflected on it, maybe we can prevent other coaches from burning out. So here are a couple things you need to realize. First thing you need to notice is lack of patience. Coaching takes patience. That's about as obvious as saying hell is hot. Coaches take patience. It takes a great deal of patience to deal with any children at all, if we're being honest. Children can try you in ways, especially children who are not your own. Youth athletes, varying levels of skills, personality, and focus can take that testing to an entirely different level. So it requires a lot of patience. So when you get to a point when you find yourself consistently irritated, annoyed, or impatient, or even angry at the everyday grind of practice and games, there's a good chance you are experiencing coach burnout. This is not to say that the occasional lack of patience for extraordinary situations is not warranted, but when there's a lack of patience for the daily mundane, you may likely have started to become burnt out. Another thing is the consistent sense of dread. Now, throughout the season, you will dread a conversation with a parent or player, a practice, or a game. Those feelings of dread are par for the course. The dread I'm talking about is when those feelings of dread become consistent. They make every practice and game feel like a challenge you want to avoid. They make every conversation you have to have exhausting. When you get to that point, you're more than likely starting to get a little burnt out. The last thing is clouded judgment or loss of identity. Are you a coach who runs a structured practice with no wasted movement? Are you more of the teach, model, execute style of practice? Does your game day consist of a set rotation or substitutions made based on performance and matchups? These are your judgment calls. When managed efficiently, all methods can be effective. However, when you find yourself doubting your judgment and decision-making or veering away from your standard approach, burnout could be the reason. It's these little signs we we do not notice, that we ignore, that could be the reason. And those signs of burnout, just the three I noticed after I sat down and reflected, can be very debilitating on a coach, and in turn, debilitating for the kids. So if you're at that point, what do we do? What do we do when we're burned out? Teachers, which I am by day, as you know, and coaches have one similarity in common, and it's a fatal flaw in a lot of cases, especially regarding kids. And that is, they ask themselves the question, if not me, then who? If not me, then who? If I won't do it, who will? Sadly, if you're facing burnout, that's not your problem, because you are not effective. And an ineffective coach due to burnout is useless. It's hard to step away from something you love. However, it's beneficial for the mental health of you as a coach, as well as the longevity and retention of your players and the instillment of love of the game that transformational coaches should be focused on. Sometimes you need to step away. While it's so easy to say don't focus or spend too much time during the season on the team, it's also beneficial for the coach to take at least one night in season and do anything that does not involve the sport they're coaching. Now, my suggestions scientific fact? No, not at all. They're merely the strategies I use to recover and return to coaching. And I share these with the hope that maybe they could help you. Burnout is real. We see it all the time. A lot of us don't realize till it's too late, we never come back. But be mindful of yourself. The cliched expression is you can't pour from an empty cup. A burnout coach is an empty cup. So start watching yourself. Start watching your fellow coaches and look out for each other. And that's about enough of that. Folks, coming up on the podcast, got a few things coming down the pipe. I know I've been promising guest interviews. We're lining up dates. We're lining up times. We're getting everything set up to have some people come on. It's just a matter of time. However, if you'd like to be a guest on this podcast, if you want to add to this podcast, share something on this podcast, you want me to investigate something from this podcast, reach out. You can reach out at the Sports Reclamation Project on Facebook, _Sports Reclamation Project on Instagram, or you can hit me on my email at john@sportsreclamationproject.com. Until then, I hate to say that's it, that's all, but I hope you've had a ball. If you are heading to games this week for your child, please remember, be kind to the referees, thank their coaches, and tell your kids you'll love watching them play. This is John with the Sports Reclamation Project, and we will talk again later.